I don't know, you've had so many interesting chapters in your life, but at some point either you left the left or the left left you, or were there certain moments where you feel that the left failed your test?
Yeah, one was Clinton. They thought it didn't matter that he was an abuser of female staff and a perjurer and a plausibly accused rapist and things of this kind. Didn't care about any of that. Thought that was rough. I was very depressed by the attitude of most of the anti-war movement to the rescue of Bosnia, where under Tony Blair's influence, Clinton actually eventually did do the right thing. But if the anti-war left had been listened to, Slobodan Milosevic, he might have died by now, but he would have died as the head of a greater Serbia. And Bosnia would have been cleansed, and so would Kosovo. And that would have been fine by a lot of people I knew. Well, I'm very through with that. And of course, if any of them had been listened to, Saddam Hussein would still be the owner of the whole of Iraq and everyone in it. And there, it just seems to me as clear as anything could be that I could see why the right wing were in favor of that outcome. I don't know why people think it's a left-right question. I mean, look at the people who were against the intervention, the Kissinger crowd, the so-called realists, Scowcroft, Eagleburger, the scum of the earth, reactionary conservatives, the bulk of the Republican Party, including its previous president, the Pat Buchanan fascistic isolationist Jew-baiting types, in Europe, the Pope, Jacques Chirac, probably the most corrupt right-wing politician on the continent, Putin. All the forces of reaction were in favour of keeping Iraq the way it was. There was the British Labour Party, my old party, to its credit. There were some of us in Washington. I have a whole chapter, if you want, about who the members were of the open conspiracy of the left socialist regime change faction. Peter Galbraith, Rolf Ekéus, the great Swedish socialist who was the head of the UN inspection team. Very creditable group. I'm very glad to have been a member of it.
Interesting.
And subject to this day to the most appalling Niagara of defamation and innuendo and so forth. No blood for oil, you're a tool of the Israeli lobby. I mean, really tiring, cheap stuff, believed in by almost everybody. So I've tried to vindicate the honour of that in the book. That's why I'm prepared to be boring, by the way.
Fair enough. At the same time, though, since you believed in the cause of getting rid of Saddam Hussein, I'm just curious about your reaction to how badly it was done, how poor the planning was, how when Baghdad fell, there was looting. In fact, you described being in Baghdad and talking to Peter Galbraith about the lawlessness. And very quickly, because I've interviewed a lot of reporters who reported from Iraq, is that out of the chaos came a lot of conspiracy theories about what the U.S. was really up to.
Surely, yeah. But
why didn't they do a better job?
The radix malorum here is not the wish to move Iraq into a post-Saddam era, because that should have and could have been done in 1991, which would have spared Iraq more than a decade of sanctions plus fascism and corruption, in which the whole infrastructure and society of the country was fatally tainted in ways it hadn't been before. A whole underclass was created, raw material for the verminous mullahs and for the al-Qaeda people who were already infiltrating the place. Fantastic damage done to the pipes, the electricity, the wiring, everything of that kind. And so maimed and ruined and traumatized Iraq was in our future, whether we chose to intervene or not. I think that people just don't get that, or rather won't get it.
But at the same time, and you describe a lot of conversations you have with Paul Wolfowitz, and in so many ways, he got so many things wrong. He thought that we could be in and out. He said that we could pay for this in $100 million or less, that we could use Iraqi oil money in order to pay
he was
for...
Right, but I think on the second thought he was correct. I mean, we now have, just as with Afghanistan, American exploration has hugely increased what we know about the potential wealth of the country. And not only the wealth of it, but the distribution of that natural wealth, because now we know what we didn't know before, which is there are huge oil fields under the Sunni departments of Iraq. Up till then, there was a sort of oleaginous imperative for totalitarianism because the oil was all in Shia and Kurdish provinces. So a minority of the Sunni had to rule by tyranny, by definition, if they wanted the oil. That was blood for oil, by the way, if anyone ever felt like protesting about it. Now we've emancipated them from that, and we now have a hydrological and oil basis, resource basis for federalism, which will be an improvement if the Iraqis have not been so badly maimed and traumatized that they can't see the... But once it's returned to their care, my responsibilities are there.
Your responsibilities are what?
My responsibilities, I just want Iraq for the Iraqis.
Right. But many of...
And in particular, I have a particular fondness and friendship for the Iraqi Kurds, who are running a wonderful autonomous quasi-republic of their own in the north and eastern part of the country, one of the most unarguable gains of the liberation. But now it's up to them. They don't need me anymore.
Well, they're clearly the winners, but there's been a serious brain drain from Iraq.
And Al-Qaeda have been the big losers. That's another thing. Al-Qaeda our people, and with the help of the Kurds and others, took them on in battlefield array and really slaughtered them. It's one of the great triumphs of American arms there's ever been, I think, is the total battlefield defeat and humiliation and discrediting of Al-Qaeda in Mesopotamia. It belongs in the annals. And 4 years ago, if the people who called for withdrawal had been listened to, Mr. Zarqawi could have been boasting that he personally drove the United States out of Mesopotamia. How would you have liked to see that? So, excuse me for saying so, but it's the anti-war movement that owes the explanation, not me.
Have we won?
And they don't think they owe anything at all. The fact that if their policy had been followed, Iraq would be run by Al-Qaeda and the Ba'ath Party, and a ruin, and full of looting, and wreckage and so on. That's what they would have got. And they're not even ashamed of it. And no one ever calls them on it. I don't mind having to answer the questions, but I mind that they never have to answer any. I don't respect them.
So did the U.S. win in Iraq?
No, the Iraqi people have won. They've regained control over their own country. In bad shape, terrible shape, I think. The only country in the region that has elections. These elections have had an obviously important effect on the Shia of Iraq next door, and on the Lebanese and many others. It will take a long time to evaluate it, but that's why it's useful to have a Marxist training. You can take a longer view than that of the latest opinion poll or Cindy Sheehan's latest remarks.
So you're saying
slightly
be
bigger
patient.
sense of geopolitics than that.
Let me shift gears because I'm watching the clock, and I know we do want to take some questions from the audience. I'm sure there will be many for Christopher Hitchens. I was reading that you and your fellow atheist Richard Dawkins want the Pope to be arrested when he goes to England in September.
Yes, or before then, not arrested, that would mean an arraignment, but held for questioning under oath, yes, as was attempted by our own authorities slightly too late with Cardinal Law of Boston before he skipped town to beat the subpoena and was given shelter by Ratzinger in Rome. It means the Vatican is a place of refuge for wanted, I won't call them paedophiles, they're not, they're child rapists and pederasts. Paedophilia means the love of children. It's not what's involved here. And the Church has made the historic mistake of making the man personally and institutionally most responsible for the concealment of the crime, as well as for some of the original offences, into the Vicar of Christ on earth and the head of the Church. They're going to be sorry they did that, because there's no one else to ask but him. And he will be asked. He's never going to be asked anything else till he dies. And after he's gone, he'll never be remembered for anything else either. They've made a catastrophic mistake. They're telling the American courts now, because they've been subpoenaed here a lot, and they're going to be subpoenaed elsewhere too. Well, our defense will be that we're a sovereign state. They may not want, I wouldn't if I was them, I wouldn't want to remind everyone that the Vatican City is the creation of Mussolini, dating all the way back to the miraculous year of 1927. It's the last surviving bit of the architecture of fascism in Europe. If they want to claim it, they can. But as it happens, and anyway, they're stuck with it, win or lose, but as it happens, they're not a sovereign state. We don't recognize them at the UN as other than observer status. But they'll regret it again. This is Hitchens' fork. The State Department does not file a human rights report on the Holy See. Call them up. Why not? Well, because we don't recognize it as a state. So you want state recognition? Well, then you're inviting the State Department Human Rights Report from now on. And I can tell you now what it will be about.